when I read the revelations regarding Attorney General Sessions' contact with the Russian ambassador and his decision to mislead Congress about those contacts, I felt a knot in the pit of my stomach. I worried about the future of our country with foreign influence in our elections. It goes to the very wellspring of our democracy. For weeks, I have said that Attorney General Sessions needs to recuse himself from any investigation into contacts between the President and his associates on the campaign and transition and Russia. For weeks, I made clear that I believe Attorney General Sessions' close relationship with the Trump campaign requires that he recuse himself from the executive branch investigation into ties between the Trump campaign and Russia. It's a matter of Department of Justice guidelines that I've read to you several times that are very clear. The guidelines are clear as day, yet Attorney General Sessions has demurred. The information reported last night makes it clear beyond the shadow of a doubt that Attorney General Sessions cannot possibly lead an investigation into Russian interference in our elections or come anywhere near it. With these revelations, he may very well become the subject of it. It would be of Alice and Wonderland quality if this administration were to sanction him to investigate himself. Recusal should have been given, but this goes beyond that. He had weeks, Attorney General Sessions had weeks to correct the record that he made before the Judiciary Committee, but he let the record stand. There cannot be even the scintilla of doubt about the impartiality and fairness of the Attorney General, the top law enforcement official of the land. After this, it's clear Attorney General Sessions does not meet that test. Because the Department of Justice should be above reproach for the good of the country, Attorney General Sessions should resign. But whatever one's views are on resignation, the most important thing we must do is ensure the integrity of the investigation. Has it already been compromised? What can we do to ensure it moves forward in a way that ultimately leads to the unvarnished truth? To that end, I am calling on three things. To that end, I am calling for three things today. First, the Justice Department must immediately appoint a special prosecutor. Given that Attorney General Sessions' impartiality is compromised, that responsibility will fall to the acting Deputy Attorney General, Dana Boente, who is a career civil servant, originally appointed U.S. Attorney by President Obama. It is incumbent upon the acting Deputy Attorney General to select as special prosecutor an individual who is beyond reproach, completely impartial, without any significant ties to either political party. The choice for special prosecutor will be scrutinized. Even the hint of partiality in that choice, even the hint that this person will not be able to get to the bottom of these troubling questions would be disqualifying. The prosecutor must be of great experience and unimpeachable impartiality. Now, this is not just common sense. This is what the Justice Department regulations require. They say that a special counsel should be appointed when a standard investigation, quote, these are the Justice Department's words, when a standard investigation would, quote, present a conflict of interest for the department or other extraordinary circumstances, and it would be in the public interest to appoint an outside special counsel. The regulations also require that a special counsel be a lawyer with a reputation for integrity and impartial decision-making. There cannot even be the shred of a connection between the Attorney General, Mr. Sessions, and this Department of Justice investigation into the events of 2016. Second, if the Justice Department drags its feet and refuses to appoint a special prosecutor or select someone with insufficient independence, there is another route. We will then urge Senator McConnell and Speaker Ryan to work with Democrats to create a new and improved version of the independent counsel law, which would give a 3-judge panel the authority to appoint an independent counsel. This was a law that was on the books, put in place after Watergate, to avoid a repeat of events like the Saturday Night Massacre. It was designed for this purpose. Unfortunately, it was not drafted with enough constraints. Congress allowed the authority to expire after Ken Starr's investigation into Whitewater went out of control. Ken Starr went too far. He tested the boundaries of the authority he was given. The law, the original independent counsel law, went too far. Sorry, the independent counsel law was not drafted tightly enough. But in this case, cognizant and wary of this history, we would work to craft a narrow authority with specific guidelines for this investigation to prevent this from becoming a political witch hunt. We hope that if the administration fails in its responsibility, that Senator McConnell and Speaker Ryan will rise to theirs. Finally, third, the Inspector General of the Department of Justice must immediately begin an investigation into the Attorney General's involvement in this matter thus far, to discover if the investigation has already been compromised. The Inspector General doesn't need any permission from either anyone in the administration or the Congress, and he should go forward immediately. We know the Attorney General met with the President several weeks ago. What did they discuss? Have there been other contacts between the President or senior administration officials and the Attorney General regarding this matter? Have there been any attempts to interfere with the investigation in any way? Has the AG or his close associates personally managed the work of career officials at the Department of Justice or FBI in the course of the investigation? The Inspector General has the ability, the right, and the obligation to find out answers to these questions and more. The revelations that we learned about last night are extremely troubling and raise even more questions about the President and his associates' contacts with Russia. Did the President know about the meetings between then-Senator Sessions and the Russian ambassador? Were these the only 2 meetings between the now Attorney General and the Russian ambassador or other Russian officials? Did the Attorney General disclose these meetings during the FBI background check for his nomination? There has been revelation after revelation, mistruth after mistruth, stories shifting like quicksand. If there is truly no there, why won't they tell the truth? The bottom line is we have an obligation to get to the truth. We must evaluate the scope of Russia's interference in our election and assess if agents of their government have penetrated to the highest level of our government. Nothing less than the sanctity of our dear democratic process, the primacy of rule of law, and the integrity of our executive branch is at stake. We now know the only way that this will happen is if an independent, impartial, special prosecutor who has no attachment to this administration conducts this investigation. If the administration is unwilling or unable to manage that, Congress should reinstitute the law, allowing us to bring in a special counsel to do it for them. Ready for your questions? Yes.
Leader Schumer, why isn't it enough for him to recuse himself? Why does he have to resign?
Look, the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the land, and already his integrity and independence has been questioned. It would be better for the country if he'd resign.
But is there something wrong?
The main point I am making here is we need an investigation to get to the bottom of this. Better for the country if he resigns, but let's get a real investigation going. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say...
Okay, so the pressure building on the U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The issue of recusing himself, this is from the investigations that have been set up by the U.S. intelligence agencies, the Department of Justice, and 4 congressional committees examining this developing scandal. Democrats demanding that Jeff Sessions recuse himself from those investigations and for Congress to name an independent special investigator to oversee a broad probe. And as we heard there from Chuck Schumer, if the Justice Department fails to appoint a special prosecutor, they want to invoke a law that was brought in after Watergate for an independent team to look into what's gone on. We'll have more reaction to that, of course, throughout the afternoon here on BBC News.
Just a line in other news coming through here from the appeal court. Just while we were listening to that news conference, the appeal court has reserved judgment in the Mark Duggan appeal. Mark Duggan, who was, you'll remember that, who was shot by police, his family trying to overturn the decision in that case. Solicitors have been at the Court of Appeal today. We were thinking we might hear something, but we're just hearing that the appeal court has reserved judgment in the Mark Duggan appeal. That is all we know at this stage. There may be a few more details to come through in the next half an hour on that.
Plenty more to come. We've got the sport, we've got the business, but now we've got the weather. Darren Bett is on the other side of the newsroom, on the balcony and ready.
Indeed I am. Thank you, Simon. Good afternoon. Some sunshine today for many parts of the country, and indeed today may be the sunniest day of the next few because there is some rain beginning to move in and signs of change, I think, probably by the time